Asemneba, he released a statement denying all of the allegations. But there are tabloids in the UK that would pay prostitutes just to go and have an affair with a footballer. They can pay as much as £100,000. So that is the industry that works against players. Because look, not even his legal team can tell him how this will conclude.
You don't know these streets like we do.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Streeters Watching. This is my editorial. My name is DJ Slim. This editorial is proudly brought to you by 3Ws.mybed.africa. So when you try, will be the so I bet you I'm sure LP BIA LP no your shops is here now team in your 2 goals up and one on a farmer. What you say? 2 goals up. Let's just say a year you don't even need to stay Serbia match in the complete 2 goals up and then you are good to go. Into your shops is here on register. Now for young queen, aqua blue mineral water and supapa. Sucrogen and ayenum, my boy. In fact, it's the only source of water. It's the only water that can wash your sins away. What you say in a more professional way. Aqua blue mineral water. Pibinanum sisi and Naniama and Yankaba Emma. Your favorite DJ Slim Matana CD. Now, if you're going to some of the trending news now, one of the biggest news Air Cost CC has to be with respect to Thomas Partey, Ghanaian footballer, Bobman national team. You know, na first no udina agro Emma Asna CC. When the nature baby for oko na before I call Thomas Partey asem ni no of interest made national fi match semba ku mienu ansa na ma address the elephant in the room. With that being said, osunu bi ani hase enye politics elephant bi ani ha issues surrounding Thomas Partey has to be with the rape case koso kese pass CA ewo UK na case no akopie charges no makomako 6 ene atoabo Thomas Partey na if it range from anal rape nkwamehu anal rape 1 to 3 ene mehu vaginal rape so mienu ena sexual assault so because these are the 6 charges that we've come across so far, and I'll let you have all that details. And I say wow, follow sports there. We are sure say by now what's our details, but this is not a subject of communication and a subject of interest today on the show. Interestingly, yeah, the Ghana this year now, how is he going to survive in a sports industry? And I say a Juma or as a footballer, how is he going to survive moving forward with these cases hanging around his neck? Menti asie pi nti me frɛ menua ono owo sports mu a ɔte asie pa no so aba line so no aba be kyerɛkyerɛ niema ba ku mienu miensem nti metu me nsa frɛ Achu Tamaklu Achu sports journalist with multimedia Otiago kansie no ɔte asie do no fa na ya na seka otimi twetwa mu 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 nti Matuna Abba Street is watching say on my update, because we are much more concerned about a year Ghana need this year Thomas Partey. We are much more concerned about him. We want to know chairman Bibi Abokodi
Slim onyame adom we giants onyankopɔ ehwe
there we say mo na mo start Bibi asa mo na mo yɛ mpanyifo nti mo tu kwan na esu edi machi kan be 10 bi
at least we will be 40. I'm in my 3rd year since I returned, but who go in? Other yeah,
NGBia. Actually, I mean, issues like this keeps happening in sports. Yeah, and this is not the first time I hear TB with players being involved in sexual assault and sexual charges. We've heard many in the chikra 2 or 3 so in recent times, from Mendy to Chelsea player. Yeah, we've heard a couple of them, but for a party in particular, issue be say, and then mental. And of course, it cuts across other footballers who've been also involved in issues like this. How do they get back into the game and have a clear mind to work?
It's difficult. For a lot of the players, it's a stigma that you cannot wash off. If you follow the public commentary, if you check social media, or share the major tabloids are the reaction when the news first broke, it's as if he's already guilty, right? So even before he stepped foot in court for the very first day, even before he makes his plea, people treat you as though you are damaged goods, as if you are guilty of the charges that have been leveled against you. And so from that side, no, even as of this stage, Partey is yet to make a plea, right? Of course, Asemneba, he released a statement denying all of the allegations, but he is yet to make a formal plea in court. Today, he was not asked to make a formal plea. So we've not even gotten to the stage where they get into the ring for the two legal sides to throw salvos at each other, interrogate the evidence, and the circumstances surrounding them to even see whether or not he's guilty. You know, but if you follow the British press, the Arsenal fans, and women's movement in the UK, from the moment the issue started, not Bibrina Elkasef, Arsenal needed to terminate his contract. And people say he ought to be suspended, and a lot of things that concluded one thing in our minds, that people who are accused of that particular conduct are not really given a fair trial even before the matter gets into the court. And Mecca said, for him, I think Arsenal have been very supportive, and I think Thomas Partey has been very lucky in the sense that when we have seen other players being accused of rape, it has been, particularly in the UK, the reaction towards this has been very consistent. Almost every club suspends their players. Some of them will even terminate your contract. Some of them will suspend you without pay. And so, if you would remember Benjamin Mendy, as you mentioned, Manchester United's Mason Greenwood when he was accused of rape, Adam Johnson, I think about 10 or some 14 or 15 years ago when he was at Manchester City, and the same issue happened. Gylfi Sigurdsson at Everton. As for Sigurdsson, he never returned. Adam Johnson also never returned. But the consistency is that assembly say bar, yeah, the assembly tools so a lot of clubs now in England no. The umbe ni say umbe to aso, umbe to asen. Ebi kura no yentua oka, obetena fie wa bra yentua oka. Na fe yedi asem na wi a answer. Say be ma okwan ma wasa aba team no, then they will. Even for nipa ba kwa no asem no ankwentia no yehwehwe ma yehu say indeed he was not guilty of all six ema nsia omudi asem to ne so that was Benjamin Mendy. The carrier na say eventually he had to take the club to court in trying to recover some of the monies that were owed him. But Partey the end of the year, very unique circumstance in the sense that Arsenal did not do any of that. They did not suspend him. They did not withhold his salary from him. They protected him and make sure that they gave him every support that he needed, right to the point where he ran down his contract. And I think for a player who was in the final 2 years of his contract, because the same way, Eshasier, Be, and as yeah, for a player who was into the final 2 years of his contract, Arsenal could have, particularly in the final year, could have decided that, you know what, this is not worth the trouble. They could have decided to come to an amicable conclusion, terminate the contract, and then ask him to leave. But they didn't do that. So, yes, it's a big stain to wash off. Psychologically, it is a lot to deal with. But I would say that Partey has been very fortunate in the sense that the support system from his family, the support system from his employers have been very encouraging.
True. True. And I believe this also washes away the theory of, say, Arsenal was actually baby footing a little bit, say, more trainer contract, and baby normal one, so and normal one, so we are, then it becomes a whole case. It also defeats that analogy in the first place. More, yeah, I say, oh, yeah, that time, no, so yeah, I need a job, na fee charges in about. So I think this defeats that. But the other part of the
Not
conversation is like,
necessarily. Not necessarily, because it could well be what people are suspecting. Say they would, for the period that he is their employee, for as long as he remains on their books and is contractually tied to them, they'll give him the support, and then the whole time knowing that Emreniswa Ombewo need to come Anako. However, whilst that is possible, I think Arsenal also deserve some credit. And the goodwill that the good faith that they have shown, the support that they have shown Thomas Partey should buy them some credit and give them the benefit of the doubt, right? We should be willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. Say, nyomoye yinechi no, yen yini na yen tum say bibi oho ankombetumi aye echen nyomoye na, they probably would have done it. Except that even the biggest Arsenal fan would admit, say, the coincidence is just crazy. I mean, within days of the contract and they ran it out, that was when the charges officially kicked in. So yeah, that the circumstances gives room for people to speculate that they knew all along that the charges were coming, and Ibimukra said they had negotiated and asked the crown to wait. But we know better. I don't think there is any institution that is powerful enough to ask the crown prosecution to wait in a matter like this, especially given who Partey is, where he's coming from, and all of that. But I think Arsenal deserves some credit.
Anyway, my other question would be time a case we see. I think the first time we heard of it has been a couple of years, like 2 or 3 years. And you tear back. But from that time and looking at the stress that it puts on these players psychologically, as a sports analyst, who notice a dip in the performance during that period till now? And have you noticed a dip in Thomas' performance?
No, no. He had his injuries. I think 2 years ago was probably the worst season for him when it comes to his fitness, because he was having injury after injury, and it was in a period where Arsenal really needed him, because in that season when he played, there was no doubt about Partey's status as Arsenal's best player. So that was disappointing. However, when Partey stepped onto the pitch, nobody could tie or draw any links between his performances to whatever was going on off the pitch, because he always gave a brilliant performance. Brilliant performance after the other in Arsenal colours. And I think even last season, there is a general consensus that over his 5-year stay in the UK, the season gone by was his best at Arsenal. If you wanted any more proof of that, the fact that Partey missed that first leg of the Champions League semi-final against PSG has been held up in the eyes of many as the reason PSG got into a very comfortable position and won that first leg, and ultimately went ahead to win the 2 legs and qualify. So that just goes to show you Partey standing in the game, Partey standing at Arsenal, and just how important he was. And here's the thing, he was in a team at a point when Arsenal broke their transfer record. They paid £100 million for Declan Rice and signed him from West Ham. When Rice came in, a lot of us felt that it was the beginning of the end for Thomas Partey as far as his game time is concerned. But it did not affect his game time. Partey's influence on the team even grew more and more. The only thing that kept him from playing was the injuries. But whenever Partey was fit, there was no question about the fact that he was 100% focused on Arsenal. And that is where Partey himself deserves a bit of credit, because look, the weight of that is huge, right? Walking into a stadium, sometimes driving to the training grounds with supporters, and we see them all the time lined up outside of the Arsenal training complex, even inside the stadium. Not everyone is cheering him. There are those, when if Partey walks to the sideline to take a throw in, there are those who are hurling insults at him and all of that. But he never complained at any point. He never said a word. Rather, he kicked on and played some of his best football for club and even for the national team, because I think in the past year, the turnaround in fortunes as far as the Black Stars World Cup qualifying campaign is concerned, a big part of that has to be Thomas Partey and his performances across the 2 games. So I think he dealt with that weight very well.
In a situation like this, if we're looking at the future, now who say where do you see this issue getting to?
Honestly, I don't think anyone, not even his lawyers, will be able to answer that question, because they are interrogating. And Jose,
Ofa crystal ball no now yes who him who the saying steps be and
a burden because look, not even his legal team can tell him how this will conclude because it is not just about the evidence that they have, but they also have to shut down the case of the prosecution, right? And defend party to the hilt and make sure that the prosecution is not able to prove beyond all reasonable doubts that indeed he did it. So that bit, I think only the prosecution can the prosecution and the judges can determine that, right? But I think that all is not lost for Thomas Partey because we have seen instances where footballers have been wrongfully accused. Neymar was wrongfully accused, but for the video footage in the hotel that Neymar was, that showed that indeed it was the lady who was the aggressor, and that Neymar did not abuse the lady. Neymar could have been in jail by now. Benjamin Mendy, the recent and perhaps the most high-profile case in all of this, was accused by six women. Six
Mm.
women. Yet he beat all of the charges and then he survived. So I think that there he has a chance, just like anyone, to beat the charges, and we can only wish him well. The final thing that I would say is that, and this is not me being judgmental. I have not
Mhm.
walked a day in Partey's shoes. I have not walked a day in Dani Alves, Adam Johnson, and all of these players, or Benjamin Mendy. I have not lived their life, so I am in no position to advise any of them. And this is not me condemning them. Having said that,
Mm.
I think our players also need to be a bit more aware of the
Mhm.
traps out there and the industry that is set up to exploit footballers.
Okay.
Look,
An
there
industry.
are there are newspapers, there are tabloids in the UK that would pay prostitutes just to go and have an affair with a footballer and then bring some evidence. They can pay as much as £100,000. They can
Wow.
pay an escort. Sometimes not just to go and have sex with a footballer, just have a night out with a footballer, go to the club, have some drinks with them, and they know that there is a paparazzi waiting to take a picture of the player in a compromising position. Then there
Mm.
are lawyers who are paid to protect these escorts. There are lawyers who are paid to represent some of them when it goes to courts. There are owners of nightclubs who will tip off various tabloids about some of the clients that come there, right? Because
Mm.
if player A is coming into the club to spend maybe £30,000, and then a tabloid is going to pay him £100,000 for sending a picture of that Premier League player at that nightclub, he's making over £140,000 just by giving information to a tabloid. So that is the industry that exists that works against players. You have the newspapers that are looking to sell. And you see, sometimes it doesn't need to be an accusation of abuse or violence or anything. It can be Marcus Rashford is an example. His nightlife became topical issue. Whenever he went into the nightclub, there were pictures taken of him. And sometimes it was something as little as a picture of Rashford entering the nightclub, just walking by the streets close to the nightclub or leaving the nightclub. And they know
So,
that yeah, something as simple as that. A player entering the night, not even a player inside the nightclub or drinking or dancing or taking in any prohibited substance, nothing like that. Just an image of a player entering the nightclub or standing in front of the nightclub is enough. It sells, right? It sells. So there are newspapers and tabloids who are paying photographers to get these images. They are paying escorts and prostitutes to just take a photo with this player, right? There are owners of these nightclubs and hospitality facilities that are giving information to media houses for this. And I think that our players need to be aware of some of these things that exist, um, and it is not in their interest, right? It is okay to have a good time, but as much as possible, uh, do the little that you can to protect yourself. Because look, these players are industries; they are a whole business. Look, some I'll give you an example. Mohamed Kudus is now earning roughly £150,000 a week. I'm not sure if those figures are accurate. If you convert it, that's around 15 million cedis or so. How many Ghanaian businesses make that kind of money in a year?
Charlie, you don't be easy like that,
Yeah.
too.
So I'm saying that just to give you a sense of
Yeah,
how huge our
yeah,
players are.
yeah,
Look, they are
yeah.
working businesses, and I think it is in their own interest that they be a bit more protective, a bit more defensive. And I know that saying this as a journalist, it goes against my trade because my job thrives on players being open to us, the media.
I,
But sometimes, sometimes even we would understand, especially if you're Slim, if you walk into the United States, you're about to enter a nightclub, and then you see Joseph Pinto or Osman Bukari or any of the Black Stars players there. If you try to say hello to the player in front of that nightclub and the player walks away and pretends he hasn't seen you, it is not always because he is snobbish. It could be that he has seen a paparazzi close by, or he has seen someone take out their phone to take a photo, and they do not trust that individual. So, in the bid to protect themselves, to protect their image from being captured,
True,
they perhaps would
true.
not acknowledge your presence. And they could be very good friends with you, but in that moment, they need to protect themselves. And the best way to do it is to not communicate or not even respond to someone that they
True.
know very well. And I think that that could help.
True. Atu, thanks a lot for joining us today on the show, Charlie. What say? What mommy info for now? But we're just waiting for only abekwa akugina adaka nim na afi o ma start atoto omo nsama no one by one afi ehun ba bia asem ne kwa kosi but so bibia dru ho na ye ball prum abeg open the door, give we make we have conversation on this issue.
I did for you, bro. I did for. As for me, I'm waiting to see him in La Liga in Villarreal. It's been 5 years since he left, but he's going back as a better player, as one of the best central midfielders in La Liga, perhaps the best holding midfielder in La Liga. I don't think there's a midfielder. I don't think there's a holding midfielder in Spain who is better than Thomas Partey as we speak. He walks in there as the number one holding midfielder, and of course, he's going to play in the UEFA Champions League league phase. At least he's guaranteed to have some 8 games where he can sell himself and really show the world again of the quality that he has got. And we are all behind him. He's our brother. We are all wishing him the best in this new adventure at Villarreal.
Okay. Atu Tamaklo, a sports journalist with multimedia. Atu Medase, so joining our street is watching. Well, I say, come into the comment section. Let me know what you think about this whole issue with Thomas Partey. But most importantly, like I keep on saying, keep it real because the street is always watching.
You don't know these streets like we do.
We